All right, in St. Ignace, Michigan, Cam Simaz back in the mitten. What brings you back this way, and how excited you to be back in your home state?
First off, it's been a while.
It has.
I'm trying to think the last time I was here, and it's been at least 5 years, I think. Because I spent some time in Chicago, and I was at West Point last year, and now I'm here in South Dakota State. So it's been at least 4 years. I'm thinking it was probably like 2014, 2015. That was the last time here. So yeah, it's been a long time. Am I excited to be back? Absolutely. What makes it a little bit better is, so I brought 5 guys. It was supposed to be more, but a couple of guys didn't quite make the trip. I brought 5 guys with me from South Dakota State, and they're having an absolute blast for a few reasons. One, it's fun, right? It's a lot of fun, and even for our college guys, having fun in wrestling is super, super important. And number 2, there's other college wrestlers here, so it's not like they go put on this camp for high schoolers and they can't work out. No, it's like we're lifting, we're playing games, of course, right? Because that's what we do is play games and have fun. But number 3, they're wrestling other college level guys, so they don't even get a break in their training. So for a guy like me and guys like my guys, this is absolutely perfect. We get out here, we get to work with some high school kids, and then we get to wrestle some of the best guys in the country because they're coming here for the exact same thing.
Let's talk about South Dakota State a little bit. So this was first year out there, correct?
First year.
Give me your thoughts on year one and where you see the program right now, and what you guys are trying to build out there with Coach Hahn, who is one of your college coaches as well.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's no secret. Year one was long and it was tough, right? There's no doubt about that. But that was the year that we had to get through. And now, if you ask me honestly, I'm going to answer. We feel very, very comfortable with exactly where we're at. We knew that first year was going to be hard. There's no doubt about it. Now we're comfortable with where we're at and where we're trending. We have, some of the guys here with me today are going to be pretty impactful in the future. And a bunch of our young guys, right? We redshirted everybody last year. There's some guys that, our fans are like, why don't you pull this guy? He could be an impact player right now. It's like, no, because that's not what's right for him, right? And what's right for your individuals, by and large, is going to be right for your program. So in the long term, and that's what we're always trying to make long-term best choices instead of the short-term fix. In the long term, the right call was to redshirt those guys and prepare our program for success for the future. So that's what we did, and so we redshirted, all of our freshmen. Guys were talking about Tanner Sloan, Zach Price, Kenny O'Neill, Clay Carlson. The list goes on and on and on. What was right for them was to develop that year, and what was right for our program was the same. Now, you mentioned Damian Hunt. Absolutely. Yeah, it's been great. I wrestled for him for 5 years. I worked alongside him at Finger Lakes while we were both in Ithaca for 3 years, and it's been really, really good to reunite with him and try to build something, right? I think we were chatting a little bit earlier this camp. Like building a program is not so dissimilar from building a business or really building anything in general. It takes a lot of sweat. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of frustration at times, right? Sometimes conflict and things like that. But it's been a really good experience, and we get to share it with guys like Cody Caldwell and Chris Dardanes and Nate Rodert and people that are surrounding that program. It's been quite an experience. It hasn't always been roses, I'll tell you that. This first year has been really, really difficult, and we had some things that I don't think that we could have necessarily predicted and foresaw, but with the challenges, I think we grew a lot, right? So, and that's kind of always the goal. That's what we're telling our athletes all the time, is you got to love the adversity, right? So we can't be hypocritical about it and hate it ourselves. We like the adversity, and we realize that we're making a lot of strides in and of itself. So struggle, check. Growth, check.
When you finished up, you mentioned you stayed on at Finger Lakes in Cornell, and then you kind of left. You're right. You moved to Chicago. You got in the business world. What brought you back to coaching, and what was that transition like, leaving it the first time and then getting back into it?
Well, it's a longer answer than you realize. I'm going to give you the concise version. It's quite a long story actually. So the concise version, I suppose, is I was in Chicago. So in 2015, I left and I went to Chicago, and I got to work with a guy named David Klonger and on his pod in a trading platform. And one of the best teams I've ever got to work with. I really loved that team, right? Fast forward a year or two, and he retires, and another guy leaves that pod, and the team changed, right? The team changed, and it was an easier decision for me to leave then than it would have been ever before with that same kind of group together. So a couple guys left, and the team changed quite a bit, and there were still some guys around that I really enjoyed, but it wasn't the same, and it wasn't necessarily what I thought I was naturally gifted at. One, I don't know if I necessarily had the intrinsic skill set and the mindset to really thrive. So I got out, and because of that connection, I got back into it for a few reasons. One, I loved wrestling, but two, I had this military aspiration. Still to this day, I harbor that, right? And I actually went to West Point prep school, and I was there for a year. Now, leaving there was a difficult choice. Leaving there was a very difficult choice for a few reasons. One, my plan was to go down an entirely different path, right? I didn't necessarily foresee coaching in my future, honestly, right? I'm as surprised as you are that I'm coaching today in a lot of ways, right? But during that year, I got back into it. I was like, man, I really enjoy this. Leaving West Point was a difficult one, and the only reason that I did is because Damien Hunt picked up the phone and gave me a call and said, hey, listen, I'm trying to do something out here, and there's not a whole lot of people that would have been able to convince me, but he was one of them. Very short list, and I'm in Brookings today, and enjoying it. You just heard the answer before. There's been a lot of things that happened this past year, but it's been very enjoyable. Certainly an experience because this is the first time I've ever been like on staff. I've been doing the prep school thing at Finger Lakes. I did the prep school thing at West Point, but it's an entirely different job. It really, really is. Running a program, being an assistant on a Division I program here in America is very different than just training the guys. I love training the guys, but you need more skills. You need to recruit. You need to organize. You need to fundraise. You need alumni outreach. You just need to be able to do a lot of different things. We joke as coaches. Sometimes we get together. It's like, why'd you get into it? It's like, oh, I love coaching. Yeah, I know that 5 to 10% of the thing that we do, because that's all you do. Like, you only get to coach maybe 10% of your time. 90% of your time is spent elsewhere, doing other things entirely unrelated to wrestling. And one, it helps if you learn to love that. But two, it's part of the gig, right? It's part of the game, and you have to get good at those other things too. And am I great at those things? No, I'll tell you right now, I need to improve. I need to get better. And that's certainly my job, and that's certainly my aspiration right now is to improve in those areas.
You talk about the year one and the growth. What's the message to the guys on the team, and what are you trying to tell those guys every day? Maybe in the room and outside of it.
Well, I don't think our message really changes ever based on there's very few circumstances that would change the way I look at wrestling, or Damien looks at wrestling, or Cody or Chris or any of those guys. I think we all see wrestling pretty similarly. One is like we just want to be really, really good at wrestling. And how do you get good at wrestling? Well, just move. Don't look at the scoreboard. Don't care about the score unless you're like, we're up by 7 and there's 30 seconds. I need to get that takedown, right? Like, we need to get bonus points. We need to get tech falls. We need to score. And we need to get as much wrestling in a 7-minute match, or in high school it's 6-minute matches, right? As you possibly can. I need you wrestling for 7 minutes. I don't need you to win. I don't care, right? Guess what? Winning and losing will figure itself out. It always, always has. The best way to do that is wrestle as hard as you can for 7 minutes, and improve at wrestling, and in the long term, you're going to get really good at wrestling, and you don't have to worry about winning that match. I don't care. And I think that probably ask any of our guys, and they'll say, yeah, certainly about me, Coach Simaz doesn't really care about that. What he cares about is going. Right? Go, do stuff. And I think that's probably a good life lesson, right? Like doing stuff is infinitely better than not doing stuff, right? So we try to make it really, really simple for our guys, by and large. Now, do we believe in these other things like athleticism, like building athleticism, gymnastics, all these things? Yeah, of course. Technical things. We'll talk about technical things all summer long and most of the season until we really refine what we're good at, and then we focus on those on the back half of the season, of course. But broadly, yeah, it's a gift, right? Like appreciate it, because I'm telling you, it's not gonna last forever. You're not gonna get to wrestle forever, right? It happened to you, JJ, and guess what? It happened to me. We're not wrestling competitively anymore, and that's good and bad. I don't want to anymore, but our guys still do. They still have that fire, and guys, that opportunity goes away. So get as much of that opportunity as you possibly can right now, because it's fleeting. It really is fleeting, and if you don't take advantage of it, you're left with regrets. And you and I think we were having this conversation maybe last night. It's like everybody has regrets, right? You just want to minimize them, right? If you don't have regrets, you're probably not thinking deeply enough about your past decisions. But we do want to minimize our regrets, and that's what we want to do for our guys, is minimize their performance and their athletic regrets as much as possible.
Obviously from Michigan, that's why this is on Michigan Grappler. Are you guys targeting some Michigan guys, and is that a pipeline that maybe you want to start to build to try to get those guys to Brookings?
Of course, right? Oh, why not? I obviously I'm from Allegan, Michigan, right? And all my brothers are from Allegan, and I love the state. Anybody that knows me knows that I love Michigan, and I would love to have some more Michigan guys out and spend some time in Brookings, South Dakota. But I think that will happen. We have to be a little bit more selective in this class. We're going to bring in like 13 or 14 guys this summer, right? So this past recruiting class was a really big one for us. We're going to be a little bit more selective going forward. So if we're reaching out, we really, really want those guys. And for South Dakota State in general, it's a little bit more regional, right? Because we need guys that want to be in Brookings, right? So recruiting the kid from Manhattan, New York City, isn't necessarily the most effective thing, because they get out to Brookings and guess what? It's not Manhattan. And if they're not ready for that kind of lifestyle, it's a bit of a culture shock. And we want to have guys that want to be in Brookings, because guess what? There are a couple things. One, people that enjoy what they're doing and where they're doing it and who they're doing it with are going to be the most successful guys in that thing that they're doing. And we're bringing out guys that want to be really good students and want to be really good at wrestling, right? And in a culture that embodies that. So it doesn't serve us at all to fake or to bring guys out that we think are awesome at wrestling but might not like Brookings, South Dakota. That doesn't make any sense, right? We want to bring them out so they freaking love it. Because if they freaking love it, it's going to help everything else, including us and the team. On top of it, with the new transfer rules, guess what? If they don't like it, they're gone anyway. So it serves no one to be anything but transparent in the process. And I think that's something that we do really, really well is, hey man, this is what you got. What you see is what you get. And if you don't like it, tell us right now, because we're not going to change anytime soon.
All right, final question. Your youngest brother, Kyle, just finished up, right?
Yeah.
Out of Cornell. The last question is, what's your dad going to do now with with all four of you guys through?
Fair enough. I mean, I'm actually asking him the same questions, like, Dad.
South Dakota State season ticket holder.
Yeah. Dad, he might want to move out to Brookings, right? Like, listen, I'm the only one still in wrestling. I don't know what you're gonna do. So Eric lives back in Mount Pleasant, so he is like probably the closest one. Taylor's in Cleveland, and Kyle's actually gonna be moving to Minneapolis. He's going to be moving into like a trading position in the area, so he's going to be kind of close to me. Oh, just got hit with the lights. How about that? After hours
Closing
with JJ. Yeah. So Kyle's going to be kind of close to me. He's going to be 4 hours away. To answer your question, and I think this is probably as honest as I can be, and honest as my father is going to be with me, he doesn't know, and that's a fair answer, right? Wrestling was a big part of his life. He's the godfather of Michigan wrestling, and that's not going to change. But I think he's looking forward to retirement in more ways than one.
But hey, we got hit with the lights, so we'll cut it there. But I appreciate the time. and obviously great to have you back in the state.
Cool. Thanks, AJ.